Hello and welcome back to Optimal Nate. Today I present to you the newest issue in the Star Trek Starships collection. This is issue 11 featuring the USS Archer NCC 627 from the show Strange New Worlds. As you've been watching, if you've been watching this series, these have been some pretty prestigious ships, intricately designed, and they are great to look at. So let's take a quick look at the box art, shall we? On the cover, we have a decent shot of the top of the hull of the ship with the warp nacelle on the bottom on its stand as it would appear when you display it. On the side here, we have an overhead shot of the ship traveling through the cosmos. And then you have the logo with the Star Trek here. On the side, you have the fan home with the website on the back. There's another view of the ship on its stand once you have it posed. On the bottom, there's just some literature there with the website upside down. All right, let's give this a quick pause, and then we'll open it up, and we can take a look at the content. So as with all your issues, you get a magazine to complement your ship. There's a beautiful 3D rendering on the cover here. It will open this up and take a look inside. So you have another view of the ship on its stand. Here is just some general information. It lets you know it was active in 2259. The length was 110.47 meters, and the commander was Lieutenant Commander Una Shinriley. Propulsion is warp and impulse, and it has one deck. So not a very big ship. I imagine the crew complement was not very much on this. Okay. So here, there's a little bit more of the background information. It was a Graal class that was operated by Starfleet in the 2250s. So this class of ship were very small, only had a crew of 3, even less than the number of people who would be accompanied by a shuttlecraft. But this ship, along with the others in its class, were warp capable and were designed for longer term missions, including exploration. I'm not going to read for the rest of this, but we'll scan through the rest of this real quick. Now, one more note I'll say here is that they say it was a warp capable vessel that was small, and it was sent to make contact with the inhabitants of the planet Kylie 279. So that's probably some interesting information there. Here's some more 3D renderings, some final concept art before it probably went to production. You can see the standard back end of the ship, which you see that warp nacelles on the Enterprise from Strange New Worlds. Some decent pulse lights here. With your marker lights on the bottom of the hull. And then you can see this is all lit up here where your deflector dish would be. And I'm going to assume these are some earlier concept designs. So this was the first ship that appeared in Strange New Worlds because it used very similar shapes to Enterprise. It was clear that it was a Starfleet vessel. Okay. And so these were transitioned to VFX art. So that's some interesting information as well. And you can see some more concepts that they did along the design course for this ship. You can see here they had some extra detail implemented for its design. Some of these magazines on these ships that I've reviewed, I'm not going to lie, some of the concept artwork could have been used for the final version. Just some of the designs seem to stand out better than the final product. Not complaining at all, but still decent work. And there's some more here. So this one here, this drawing shows that produced for the show, the Archer would have looked like if they were favored for a 24th century ship. So that's definitely in line for the 24th century design right there. Not so sure about the saucer, but Personally, between the two, I kind of like that design a little better. And there's a couple more final concepts of the ship I believe they would have used before it went to production. So, yeah, Budge, I guess it was the designer, supplied the VFX team with these diagrams, which showed how big the ship was and how compared to the Enterprise. Budge describes the Archer as being more like a runabout than a full-size starship. So tiny in stature, definitely you can see here how small it was in comparison to the Enterprise. But I give them kudos for making this a full-size ship, even though it's not in line with the larger scale. Now, here's the meat and potatoes of our video. Take the top off there. As always, you get your stand that comes with each ship. Our famous hockey puck, that I like to call them. One day, I shall be able to open these with prestige. Now, the nice thing I appreciate with these stands, the bases, they put a felt material in the bottom so they don't slide around. It keeps your ship nice and sturdy. I like that. Alright. The other thing you may like if you're new to these ships and collecting them is there's no assembly required. You just take them out of the foam. Here, let's move this aside and get the box out of the way here. I'm definitely loving the front end here with the deflector dish. Be careful if you're looking at this up close, you don't want to poke your eye out. So definitely an interesting connection here they got between the saucer and the warp nacelle. Not traditional like most of the ships you see in Starfleet where they have a secondary hull and you have the warp nacelles off to the back. But I digress, it's still a great design for a smaller ship. I love the saucer on this. Personally, one of my favorite saucers I've seen for the design in any of the ships we've done is the more modern Excelsior that we did. I think that was 2 issues ago. So a lot of Aztecing going on here, if you can look and see that in there a little bit better. So that's really nice. You got some port windows, not many. As I mentioned, there's only 2 or 3 people to complement this ship, so it's just interesting because when you pull it away and you look at it from the distance, it looks like it could have a larger crew. Maybe you could store more Starfleet equipment on this ship. I'm not sure. Everything would have to be right in the hull or the saucer section because you don't have your customary secondary hull and all that stuff. And then it's got some decent size impulse engines to work with on the back here. How fast these are, I have no idea. I'm assuming it's capable of at least warp 4 or 5. So, I'm gonna pull this back. The only thing I probably would have liked better with the end of the warp nacelle is if they had a translucent, like light fluting in here, where it could be more blue, so that way light could come through and light that up. So when you hold to the light, it would have a similar effect like the deflector dish does. That's about the only thing I could say I would do to improve this. Maybe on the inset lines on the saucer, they could have maybe darkened the gray in those to make the panels stick out a little bit more, along with these two. I'm assuming Captain's Bridge was probably here. Maybe this was Observation Lounge. I'm not entirely sure how you do a shuttle bay unless this is a shuttle bay here. If that's the case, then that definitely makes more sense for the smaller ship. So let's get this mounted on our stand and display it. And as always, be careful when you're handling your ships and when you put them into your hockey pucks so you don't snap them, because I did do that once in an older review. Actually, I'm going to take this ship back out real quick because it just seems like it'd be more practical to do it this way. So do this first and then put your ship in there. It feels like you need to press it in more than you really need to. I just press it lightly and it just kind of sucks it in like that. And then go like this. Alright. So we're going to do a brief pause so we can set this up a little bit higher. Give me one moment. Okay, so here's the final part of our video. We're going to do the light show. I enjoy this little disc here. It definitely makes our ships light up nice. It tweaks the view. So what do you guys think? Drop a comment below if you have any thoughts or opinions about this, and give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this video. As I always enjoy presenting these ships to you guys. The only thing I can say is a good thing they have this end tilted up more for the display. Otherwise, I have a feeling it would just tip over. So very top heavy, more top heavy so than even the Titan was when I did the first video. But overall, impressive little ship. I'm glad I got this. If you are not subscribed to the Starships collection, I believe you still can, and also the Enterprise D is still available if you want to do that as well. So with that being said, I want to thank you for taking your time watching my videos. If you know any Star Trek fans in your life that would like to see these ship review videos, then please share them, and this will help get the content out to them as well. And as always, for my final saying, stay humble and true, my dudes. Roll out.